So for this problem, we have a sailboat leaves port on a bearing of south 72 degrees west. After sailing for 2 hours at 12 knots, the boat turns 90 degrees toward the south. After sailing for 3 hours at 9 knots on this course, what is the bearing to the ship from port? It may be important to note that 1 knot is equal to 1 nautical mile per hour, and we want to round our answer to the nearest tenth of a degree. So I think the easiest thing to do with these is to start with a picture. So since we're dealing with bearings, I'm going to start with a set of axes, and we have our north, south, east, and west. So the first bearing we have is south 72 degrees west. So that means we're going to use the south axis, and from the south axis we're going to have a 72-degree angle pointing to the west. So that might look like this. So that means this angle is 72 degrees. And then let's see, so after 2 hours at 12 knots, the boat turns 90 degrees toward the south. So at the end of this arrow, we're going to have a 90-degree turn in the southern direction. So this is a right angle, and that's going to be for 3 hours at 9 knots. So we want to know what is the bearing to the ship from port. So if we draw a dotted line from the end of our arrow back up to where the boat started, we want to know what this little angle is in here. Okay? Alright, so the first thing that I would do is maybe figure out how long the sides of this triangle are. So we know first that it sailed for 2 hours at 12 knots. So if we have 2 hours times 12 nautical miles per hour, that gives us 24 nautical miles. So the first side of this triangle, it has a length of 24 nautical miles. Okay, the second bearing on this triangle, we sailed for 3 hours at 9 nautical miles per hour. So the second side of this triangle is going to have a length of 27 nautical miles. Okay, so now we can see that we have a right triangle, and we know the opposite and the adjacent side to this angle in here. Note that this angle, which is part of our triangle right here, is not 72 degrees. That's going to be 72 minus the angle that we actually want to find. However, since we do know the opposite and the adjacent side to that angle, we can find out what it is. So the opposite and the adjacent side are related by tangent, so we can say that the tangent of some angle x is equal to 27 over 24, which reduces to 9 over 8. Okay, so if you want to solve for x, you just take the tangent inverse of both sides, so we get that x is the tangent inverse of 9 over 8. Okay, now if you were to plug this into a calculator, this would be approximately 48.366 degrees. But we want a more exact answer, so remember that we want this smaller angle between the southern axis and that dotted line. So to get that angle, we can take our total of 72 degrees and we could subtract off that tangent inverse of 9 over 8. And if we were to plug that into a calculator, that would be approximately 23.634 degrees. Alright, so we're almost done. We really just need to figure out our bearing now. So the main part was figuring out the angle. We just need to write it as a bearing. So we're still going in the southern direction, so we're going to start with south, and then we'll write our angle to the nearest tenth, so 23.6 degrees, and then we're still going in the westerly direction, so our new bearing is south 23.6 degrees west.